and a massive welcome to this first edition of Let's Talk Apsec. I'm your host, Simon Linstead, the founder of the InfoSec Live community. And as you will see today, also with the logo behind me, the Global Head of Business Innovation for Bramfit Technology Labs, who are based in London, but with offices in New York and Perth in Australia. And I'm joined today by my new boss and the CEO, Louise Bradford, who I'll bring on for a quick intro in a sec. But before I do, I want to say a couple of thank yous. The first one to all of our viewers. If you're watching this live today, please try and make this as interactive as possible. We're going to be digging into Apsec, and it's important that the viewers jump in, ask as many questions, get engaged, and let's make this some fun and let's learn some things today. And secondly, a massive thank you to Bramfit and the team, including especially Louise, for giving me not only the job of my dreams, but also allowing me to continue the work in the InfoSec Live community. So I hope we all show Louise and Bramfit some love. And without further ado, Louise, please say hello to everyone and introduce yourself. Tell everyone a bit about who you are.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Louise Bradford. I'm the CEO of Bramfit Technology Labs. And Simon keeps thanking us for the job, but thank you, Simon. It's been a pleasure the last 3 weeks. It's good fun. We're having a good time. So my name is Louise Bradford. I'm the founder of Bramfit Technology Labs, and before I was working in cybersecurity, I was a software developer, and before that, very briefly, in the British Army. And so I worked as a software developer for a few years, and I then rotated. I took a rotation in the company I was with and got to, some exposure to cybersecurity and more the forensic side of things and the blue team side, and that really sparked my interest. Did a whole bunch of courses, and the company was really good at supporting me in doing that, and managed to move to the red side. The red teaming side, and since 2014, then we've been traveling the world and trying to make companies more secure, and that's me.
Thanks, Louise. It's a very modest backstory, and there is quite a bit more to it than that. And I want to just take a step back and just focus on what you've done with Bramfit. So Bramfit's been around now since 2014. I assume it's with you, Louise, did it back in the day, or?
Yeah, that was it. That was the old contractor.
And where are we today? So 7-8 years later, where are we?
7-8 years later, I think we're nearly 50 consultants over the globe. In the past, what are we on? 8 years, 9 years. So we've worked on in every continent, in every major city, with some really interesting projects and some huge clients. We've drifted from industry to industry, from retail to energy, production to utilities, financials. It's been really interesting. And we've grown with our people, and the people that have grown with us are still with us. It was a pleasure at Christmas this year to promote my first ever full-time employee. So he's been with us. Sam's been with us 5-6 years now, and he's now managing his own team. What a great bunch of guys. It's a lot of fun. Every day is a lot of fun with them.
Do you know? I mean, for those that know me who are watching, I mean, I haven't been employed for 24 years. Doesn't mean I've been unemployed. I've worked for myself, for those who haven't. And the whole being employed for me was a massive thing. And without wanting to blow too much smoke up your backsides at Bramfit, the reason I've joined is because I feel my skill set is, one, appreciated, and two, it can make a difference and benefit the team. And thirdly, and the most important one, is we all know I've got a massive love of cybersecurity, but I haven't got the technical knowledge. So working with such a massive team with a sort of the depth and breadth of knowledge that they've got is really exciting. And that's why we've started the new Let's Talk Apsec series. I'll let you talk about why Appsec's important to you, Louise, because it's something that the firm focus on. It's something that you focus on. So let's just start with, I suppose, for those who don't know, I see, Carrie, you had to Google what Appsec was. So it might be a good place to start as simple as not what is Appsec, but a bit of the history, a bit of the background, and how you've maybe not fallen in love with it, but fallen in love with dealing with the challenges of it? Let's put it like that.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, it was natural. You know, I was a software developer, and ever since I started writing code and I got introduced to it at university, I loved it. For the uninitiated, application security. So I think the boom happened probably 4 or 5 years ago. There was more and more hacks and data breaches coming through applications that were, you know, either off the shelf applications run by the company or software that they'd written themselves with their own development teams. And you know, attackers were getting onto that, and really they were being quite successful in stealing data and getting a foothold into organizations and using the applications as their first pivot step. And you know, as that got more and more popular, and you know, there's been some big hacks along the way that are along those lines, application focus. I mean, the one that springs to mind, the biggest one is the Equifax. You know, think through Apache Struts 2 library, and you know, things like when you first learn about SQL injection, for example. For me as a developer that had never thought about security, I was like, yeah, of course, of course you can do that.
Yes, now,
yeah. So that you know, that was an interesting learning curve, and since that, you know, since we've been consulting, been working with so many different development teams and so many like really clever people and cool projects. I still come across the developers like, no, that's impossible. Even when you've shown them, like, look, this no, you can't do that. It's impossible.
So there's a lot of misconceptions around within the community then.
Yeah, I think there's some misconception. I think it's a lot better lately. I think you know, the vulnerabilities or the problems I see lately are less about the developer. I think there's some really good training out there and people learning development. Even the tutorials that you see online, you know, they're starting to mention cybersecurity and, you know, don't do this because it's a security issue. I think it's difficult for organizations to pivot and move into cybersecurity, into application security, because it's a big machine moving. You know, all the app developments, it's changing the tire on a car while it's going down the motorway. And I think a lot of people are struggling. I think even the industry standards are struggling to find the right approach to make that better.
I completely agree with that, and that's with my sort of limited knowledge in the industry. Just quickly, I see in the chat we've got a few people who I know. Jessica, thanks for jumping in. Jose, again, thank you very much. Sherry, thank you. And Gareth, Gareth's a recruitment consultant actually in the Apsec space, Lewis. I know him through a mutual friend who's also in Apsec, and I'm glad to see you here, Gareth. Actually, it's interesting to see that you're in the crowd. If you're interested in perhaps joining on a future episode where we dig a bit deeper, Gareth, it'd be great to see you. So, okay, let's get back to Apsec then. And what is it you do differently, or what is it? Sorry, change the terminology. What is it we do differently? Week 2.5. I'm on now at Bramford. I'm not used to it.
I think the most important thing for me that I learned over the early consulting years was the us and them approach to security, to application security. And what I mean by that is security teams dictating in very stringent manner, this isn't right. And even maybe being slightly arrogant about it, you know, your code's rubbish. You know, how could this possibly happen? And not even taking into account, you know, these development teams, they're there for a reason. They're there to build an application for a very specific reason, mostly to make money, or to help the company make money in some way. And they're under a lot of pressure, and other things can go wrong apart from security. You know, so it's difficult to build that in. So what we try to do is be a lot more pragmatic and a lot more embedded with what the team is trying to achieve and what that application wants to achieve, and go along that journey with them, and really be a partner, and share the responsibility. We're there to help you. We're there if your app doesn't work, that means we failed.
Yeah.
And it's collaboration, right? It's the only way it works, and the dev community is fantastic for collaboration that goes on. That's how all these new technologies come about. Some really clever stuff, and security needs to be involved in that, and security needs to be heavily involved in that, to be honest.
The ironic thing is, Lewis, I mean, obviously I've got no experience of the developer community, but I have got, a couple of years experience now in the InfoSec cyber community. And I've got to be honest, it's the same, isn't it? In that you've got this huge sense of collaboration. I mean, there's lots of people who are watching today who bend over backwards to help other people on a daily basis. I spent 23 years in financial services and never did anyone once reach out to help anyone, so there's something about this industry, the kind of IT industry, that is special and does give people the chance to collaborate. But we were saying I think it was before this call earlier, that there's too many barriers in the way. I mean, I've seen the word ego and arrogance in the chat as well.
Yeah.
It has its place in all industries. But it's the lack of understanding at all levels, not just of how important the security is, but also the different aspects of the business and how they impact on security budgets and decisions. Because if you haven't got everyone understanding that process, it makes it impossible to onboard everyone to work together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think, we talked about it earlier today. The developers are there to do a job, right? They're there to do it, to write that code to the best of their ability. But senior management and decision makers need to take some responsibility for what they're, strategically what they're doing. One of the questions I asked the CISOs, when we go in is, there are some organizations, the question I ask is, why are you writing your own software? I mean, the cost and the level of failure is huge. Software projects, it's difficult, right? They all run over. It's difficult to do, and I find there's organisations out there that would be much better taking, spending that money on professional development teams, and I know there's financial decisions that go on, but it's much better to understand, look, we can't do that, and you can't just do it at the drop of a hat, because whatever you think you're saving, it's coming back to you. And I think people don't take into account in all technology, when they're introducing a new technology into their company, yes, they improve the business, they're also introducing risk. And the level of risk you're introducing when you're writing code, I don't think gets enough respect.
Well, let's stick on that. Let me just pick up a couple of comments in the chat first, because I want to keep this interactive. Gareth, I think you're absolutely right that there does need to be a unison between dev and sec folks, and the only way we're going to do that, I think, is by having more open collaboration and discussions like this, whether it's online or offline. It's the only way that things are going to improve. I also saw in there, I think Christopher and Jessica were also saying a similar thing. So you were talking about what you were talking about a second ago. Just dig deeper into that, Lewis, because we did earlier, didn't we, with regards to those challenges and what can be done.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I mean, let's say you've got a little bit of development going on in your organization. You're getting fairly big. You've got decisions to make, right? You've got an idea. You need an application to do a certain job, and the decision makers, all right, we can bring in a team. We can get this done in 3 months or 6 months. I've never ever in 15 years seen any software project deliver on time. So there's always, I think the senior kind of decision makers need to understand whatever timelines they're being told. Add 3 months to it. It's never going to be that simple. But also, should you be doing it? Are you prepared to take that risk, right? Or is it a more sensible approach to leverage your third-party compliance, your contracts, and your standards, and get a quality software house or software firm in to work with you and build it for you. Something that they do on a daily basis, and I've been doing for years. That works on so many levels, and it's even the same concept sort of applies if you're a much bigger enterprise company and you have 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 developers worldwide. You should be using patterns. You should be doing the things that work and are tested, rather than quickly introducing new technologies with no training, no experience, which happens all the time.
Yeah. Is people are so keen to get the next thing, or is it because they've been sold the fact that this is going to be great for the business in these areas, but they haven't actually taken into account the fact that no one knows how to use it? We don't know what impact it has on risk.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think when I've been in company and I've said, why did that happen, right? You've got a 50-50 split of, say, Java development going on and C# development going on, and then there's an app in Ruby. Well, how did that even happen, right? Well, there must have been a decision there at some point, and it was an uninformed decision. And that's not to say you can't use and you shouldn't use new technologies. Of course, they're there to be used, but you have to fully appreciate and come to terms with and accept that if you're bringing in new technology, then you're bringing in new risk and you're bringing in new requirements. These guys need training. One of the most common things I've seen, in the last kind of 5 years, is companies moving to cloud. Okay, we're moving to AWS. Have you trained any of your people on AWS? How many AWS certified people have you got? And it's none. So what you end up with is the hardworking technical people, the developers or the engineers, finishing their day job, going home, reading about AWS, seeing some tutorials, and invariably those tutorials are then modified and end up in a production system. Yeah. That's just how it works.
We've got a question in there. I think we even know this name, don't we, Lewis? There we go. Johnny Gill. Hey, Johnny, thanks for jumping in. Has the increased number of standard libraries and frameworks helped to improve the base level of Apsec? Good question, Johnny.
So, has it to increase? No, I think libraries is a particular issue. The components and the composition of third-party libraries is a poorly managed issue in many companies. There are ways of doing it properly, but if your developers are working on their own laptops or some unfettered kind of uncontrolled technology, and they're bringing in libraries, and you've got no scanning on them, first of all, you don't know what you're introducing. You literally, it's just like a phishing email. You're putting it in your system. You could be putting bad, and you could be putting good in there. You don't know. Even from my opinion, even if you are at that point then checking it on the pipeline and you're doing some kind of composition analysis on those third-party libraries, for me, it's too late. It's already there. And the development teams may even need to re-architect what they've built, right? So you're taking 2 steps back if security fails them and says, no, that can't happen. It's not just a little fix. There's potential that's a major problem, and a lot of development work. For me, the ideal solution is an artifact repository, Sonatype, Next, that kind of tool. And developers should be in a way, it shouldn't even be a choice. Their build tools, Maven, npm, whatever, should be just automatically configured to pull it from their internal repository where it's already been scanned, it's already been approved, if you like, or any issues are known about, at least.
No, look, it's all right. So look, from a naive non-developer point of view, I said this to you earlier, actually, when we were offline. That to me just seems to make absolute sense. What's the barrier? Why aren't people doing it?
I think there's a few things with the barriers. I think software development in enterprise organizations is not managed properly. It's either the business that's responsible and it's siloed and we're going to do it this way, and there's the organization doesn't understand it. I think there's a lack of understanding in senior management about how software is written, and I don't think. I could be wrong, but in my experience, I've not come across many software developers that have made it to a decision-making level, and that's where they also. I think there's a lack of understanding in how that works. I think there's a lack of investment, but that goes with all technology. I think it's not respected enough. I don't think the act of writing software is properly respected within enterprises. And so the funding is not there, and so these things happen. And
it's back to the clear lack of understanding, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's something that ultimately ends up with the responsibility of the developer, and then they're the ones getting blamed, but they're working in the framework that's provided for them essentially.
But it's still their fault.
Yeah, of course.
So there's some terminology that I've heard every day since starting at Bramfit. And you even gave me a quick tutorial on it the other day because my knowledge needed a bit of a pickup. Embedded Apsec. So it's something I'd heard of before I joined Bramfit. It's a huge part of what you do. So for everyone's benefit watching and mine, so I can talk about it in a competent manner moving forward. How does that work? Why does that work?
So embedded Apsec was kind of a natural progression for our consultancy. What would generally happen before is a CISO would bring us in and he'd say, all right, go and look at that team. We'd go and pen test their app, or introduce some DevSecOps or whatever onto their app, and they're not particularly getting good results. And then we'd be like, well, we found some stuff, nothing's changed. They didn't know how to fix it, or they hadn't got the capacity to fix it. At that point, talking about secure by design is, that ship's like kind of long gone. So what we thought, well, what our consultants need to do is that, one, it helps if we can be there from the start and help secure by design. But it also helps, kind of into the project, or if it's a really long ongoing development project, it helps to have the kind of profile of Apsec, experts that we have, where they can write code, they're competent developers, to be at one with the team, right? So they're there with the team, or they're there with 3 or 4 teams. They're there on the daily stand-ups. They understand what the team's going through. They can help. So when the pressure's on and more code needs writing, so we've got to get this feature out, they can jump in and help. But at the same time, when that pressure's not on, then they can be looking at the security. They can be reviewing the code. They can be helping with the DevSecOps. They can be helping with the prioritization.
I suppose because of their increased understanding of the security side of it, they can help with the communication aspect between the different levels as well, can't they?
Exactly. And when you're one of the team, and it's like any kind of team working event or team building activity. If you're there with them, then you are together. You are collaborating. Okay. And it's not, well, we've just told you to do this. Yeah, but what you're saying doesn't, from a developer's perspective, doesn't understand. All it is it's another brick on my back, and one of those bricks is going to be the one that is a brick too far. So that's where it comes from. I think the other thing that we were looking at before embedded Apsec came along was the security champions was getting quite popular, and I hadn't seen it succeed anywhere. I always wondered with security champions how you expect someone to train to do another job whilst doing their current job without getting any more payment. With basically doing 2 jobs with no training, but somehow they've managed to they've landed with this.
Well, look, for those that don't know what security champions is, do you want to just cover that off quickly?
So security champions in the Apsec world, what tends to happen is someone in a development team And we're talking about, you know, an enterprise level, you've got, you know, say 10, 15, 20 development teams going on. Someone from those teams will say, we told you, right, you're a security champion. You know, your job is it's a positive thing. Your job is to champion security. It's to help work with security. It's supposed to be, you know, some kind of liaison between them. Maybe some hands-on training with DevSecOps tooling, SAST and DAST and things like that. So that's there. It's like the voice of security in the team, and that's the right thing to do. But I feel the wrong thing to do is to do it in the way I've seen it implemented, with no funding, no training, no experience. How does a developer, you know, all of a sudden get the experience of a pen tester? It's not going to happen. And even if you started training them and saying, "Oh, we're going to give you $5,000 a year to go on a SANS training course and learn Apsec," you're still only seeing that application that they're working on. So they haven't got the experience of other things that can go wrong, which can be translated. So I find it a difficult thing to. I find it a big ask, if you like. It's a big ask. I think most development teams and most product owners would rather have a security expert on their team.
It sounds like a cop-out. Sounds like a cop-out to me for an organisation to get away with
security put someone and help them, rather than security ask for one of their people for less time to help security.
Yeah. Here, look, relevant question, kind of tenuous link to that conversation there. I'll bring it up. It's I'm sorry about this, but it says LinkedIn user on Restream that I'm using here. So if you can jump on YouTube and ask the questions, that'd be great. So get to see what your name is, which does help. But LinkedIn user asked a question: when hiring Apsec engineers, do you think hiring managers relied too much on certs versus practical skills, i.e. juice shop, can't say that word, try hack me, etc.?
So interesting. It really depends on the organization that you're joining. Okay, I think if you are joining an organization that's they're not a security firm, they're hiring you because they have Apsec going on, application development going on, and they need their own Apsec engineers. Personally, I care about the practical skills. I think if you're joining a security firm, then the practical skills come first, but the certifications are important. They're what helps give the firm the kudos and the weight that it needs. They also help you build your career. Yeah. So it's for me, the certifications is a mutual thing. I mean, I think any of our boys would tell you, I always find it important, because even if they want to leave, I need to be happy that if they leave, they've grown somewhere. They're not the person that they joined. They've grown somewhere. But also, as an organization, for me to get certain certifications, I need my guys to get certain certifications. That's why it's important. The practical skills, for me, they win on the
practical skills first, but to get the decent contracts and to land the work, you're going to need certs at some point to be that valued member of staff for most decent organizations. And while we're on that, I know this isn't about recruitment, but I know that we've got kind of half the audience who are either looking for work or in the industry about to look for work. The recruitment process, I'm not going to talk about it in detail because obviously it's private, but the recruitment process I went through at Bramfit, bit different, I suppose, because I haven't had a job interview for 20 odd years, but it wasn't a typical interview. And the last over a year, I've had a real issue with the whole kind of industry-wide recruitment processes that go on. Apart from you, Gareth, I love you lots, and I know you're very good, but there are some not so good practices. And I think a lot of it isn't the recruitment consultant's fault. It stems from the top of the organizations not understanding or having different levels of management who don't communicate and understand as to the people they actually need. So you said about practical experience versus certs. I'm getting round to the point at the end. And the point is, when you're looking to take on new staff, how do you go about doing that? Because I see people on LinkedIn every day. I've applied for 100 jobs. I've applied for 50 jobs. And I know that that is a bad way to go about it. And I also know that I've never got a job without having a contact at the firm before I've spoken to them, which is no different to how we met. You know, I knew someone you knew, they introduced us, and that's how it worked. How does, because the whole process is different at Bramfit. Tell the audience what you can about how you approach it without giving.
I mean, I don't mind. It's not a secret to us. It's just what we believe as a collective to be the right thing. I mean, we are a team. We have superstars in different respects, and you know, so people's strengths are in some places, and people's strengths in others. But we are a collective. We're on a journey together, and I find it hard. I mean, there's the technical interviews are there, right? You have to be technically good enough, but the team has to work as a team. Okay, so an interview, I feel, is a completely false or, you know, kind of made up situation that you're not in. So what I like to do, as we do with a team, we have a good social life as a team. Before lockdown, we were at least having dinner all together once a week, and that's every single consultant, no matter what your job is, every single person in the company. And I like to involve the people in that. I think, you know, you're hiring
all those dinners, Lewis, a little bit, really.
You still got the dinners. But it's about that. We like to bring people in. Have a social aspect to it. Does everyone get on? Can everyone get on? And respect each other and communicate well with each other. And that's, you know, it seems soft skills, but we're a consultancy. If we can't get on with each other, how are we going to get on with our clients? And that's the way. And it maybe makes that process a little bit longer, but I think it's been much more successful. You know, our turnover of staff is nearly zero. Nearly all the staff that have left us have gone on to bigger and better things that as a consultant I just can't offer. You know, so I don't lose sleep over that. I'm happy and proud of all of them.
And it's nice that you want people to grow as well. And I think for any employer who doesn't treat their staff in the way that, you know, at some point, especially for the younger staff, they're going to, you know, their wings are going to fly, and they're going to either, if they can't progress where they are, they're going to go somewhere else. And I think personal growth is such a hugely important part of any organization you work for, but one that isn't always paid too much attention to. So let's get back to the topic in hand. Sorry for going off track there a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Let's not talk specific clients, but we were talking about embedded Apsec, and we're talking about the benefits for it. And I know as a firm that we look after a lot of high profile companies that we can't mention the names of, but let's just talk through what works and what doesn't with regards to the firms that we're working with and the challenges that we're having at the moment.
Okay, so that, I mean, it's pretty broad. What works? Embedded Apsec works, right? It does work, right? I can tell you that with one particular, more than one client, it starts off as something that's security introduced and funded, and transitioned to something that the development teams couldn't or didn't want to be without. So our client changed within the organization. You know, that works. That's well respected. The way we pen test is working. People like that. They like the fact that we don't charge for retests. Our remediation advice can be pretty hands-on. You know, the guys are happy to jump on a call and work through code. We have a remediation service specifically because so many people find it difficult to understand what the remediation steps are and to understand what the problems are. So we have a service where we'll literally fix your code for you. And that's going well. People, you know, they like that. And the reason we like that is, as pen testers, it's quite negative delivering a report that's bad, and it's almost a little bit soul destroying when you come back to the same client again and again and nothing's improved, and nothing's changed.
Is it surprising, Lewis?
It's not surprising. Well, it's not surprising that these days. But you know, there's an immense amount of satisfaction in testing someone, finding it's right, and helping them fix it. So the next test that comes along, and it's almost like a challenge. You don't even have to use us for the next test. But use someone else, see if they can get around. You know, because we've helped fix all this stuff. There's a lot of satisfaction in that, and you know, that's what I think sets us apart. I think the things that maybe are more difficult is dealing with the siloed companies. You know, there's been multiple instances where we've gone into a company through a particular team. They wanted us to do something, and you know, we've done our stuff, and you know, I'm proud of the boys of the work they do. And then we'll get another contact from the same company but a different team, and then we'll go into them and do exactly the same thing. And you know, I try very hard to try and get them to communicate inside together, and you're paying for the same thing twice. You know, try and you know, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Sounds like local authorities to me, but I know it isn't. Right. Just I've worked with them before. We've got a fair few people watching on the different channels, and we want to make sure that these want to do these regularly, maybe once a fortnight. And what we want to achieve is, as you'll see in lots of the comments in the chat, we're talking about the importance of collaboration within the industry. And the whole point of this series is to try and bring together people in the developer space and the security space to discuss these issues and try and have an open table about it. The idea is to do a few of them live to generate some interest and get some people in, and then we're going to take a few offline and do some sort of deep dives into it. So if anyone who's watching either live or the recording back is interested, I'll just bring up, it's actually my InfoSec Live email address, so apologies, Lewis, but there's an email address there that you can get in touch with me for to arrange these. Anyone in particular, any type of industry people you'd like to get involved, Lewis, who you think would benefit from it, and we could benefit from learning from them as well, perhaps? Me.
So I think you know, the way attackers look at companies is not sector or industry focused necessarily. Maybe their goal is, but code's code, a port's a port, a network's a network. So I think if you know, I'm interested in people that are, what I'd really be interested in, to be honest, is meeting people where they feel that their Apsec program has been a real success. Okay, yeah. Because what I tend to see, and when we tend to be engaged, is after multiple failures and reboots of Apsec programs, and I see that a lot. It loses steam very quickly because it's just this is what I was saying about industry standards and industry practices. The way that they go, the way that people believe they should go about it is it's a lot of man hours, it's a lot of talking, and there's a lot of friction. Yeah, and it simply doesn't have to be like that, you know.
Is it like Jose's saying there that sometimes companies worry too much? Sorry, knock the table. Too much for getting the high tech or high skilled people, but then forget how important the kind of culture and the processes that are embedded within the organization are.
Yeah,
I mean, said earlier about let's migrate to the cloud, but not have any staff trained on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. I think I'd personally take it a step further. I'd say they worry about getting the high tech, but not necessarily the high skilled, or investing in skills, and organisation and processes. Processes are there for a reason, and it feels like everyone spends half of their working life trying to get round in processes within their employment. And I think there's a couple of problems wrong with that. One is the processes are wrong, and the processes need some real design and real architecture. And I think that's a skill that's missing, certainly in the UK. So yeah, I would agree with that. And I think just going back to your previous point, something else that's really interesting me at the moment, somewhere where we're spending quite a bit of time as a company in the IoT space. And the OT and the embedded applications and the hardware, and I find that is 20 years behind Apsec.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed a couple of people who work in OT in the US. Chip, if you're watching, you're one of them. And your biggest complaint, everyone I've spoken to's biggest complaint is all they see is people wanting to get into, this side of the industry, and they're clamoring for help and technical trained people over here, but we just haven't got it at the moment. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a different skill set. It really is. You know, from the common or the more common, I don't know, like third, fourth generation like languages like Java, C#. It's a different skill compared to someone who's got to write C on a chip. It really is. It's in my opinion, it's a lot harder. It's a lot lower level. There's a lot more that you have to manage as a developer, and that your code has to manage. It's not done for you. Whereas if you're a Java developer and you're working in an enterprise using tools like Spring, which are fantastic frameworks, but it takes a lot of the effort off you. If you're an embedded developer, you haven't got that luxury. So it's harder. It's more maths intensive. I think those jobs are harder to come across. I think maybe now, the IoT is picking up a bit, but I think traditionally, certainly, 20 years ago when I was looking at those jobs weren't out there. So maybe it's an industry thing. Maybe the industry needs to rethink how it's recruiting and how it's promoting, and get involved with some universities maybe.
There's definitely something that needs to change. I see. In the UK, I think there's a working group working on just that problem at the moment. How that will go and what the answers will be, I don't know. I did notice we got an internal email. I think it's regards to the Crest. Was it Crest and Hack the Box, or was it someone else and Hack the Box?
I think it's Crest and Hack the Box. Yeah.
I think I saw a collaboration with Immersive Labs and another provider earlier in the week as well. And I think it's more stuff like that we need to kind of bring in the people together to get that collaboration. And this industry is still kind of a teenager, isn't it, with regards to its maturity?
Yeah, I think Apsec's, it's getting there. There's a lot of tools there. There's a lot of buzzwords out there. The shift left. There's a hell of a lot of tooling out there. Sorry.
Well, let's stick on that shift left, because I read it every other post on LinkedIn at the moment. So
shift left is when you look at software development like a factory, a manufacturing pipeline. It starts with the developer. I'm on the camera now, so I'm probably going to shift right rather than left. But it starts with the developer and it ends up in production. Okay, and production is where traditionally that's where the pen tests were happening. That's where the problems were being found. Shift left is about moving towards the developer with his hands on the keyboards and solving the problems as close to that side as you possibly can. So that's what they do it, but it's all pipeline focused, which some of it makes sense to me and some of it doesn't make sense to me. I think you can do it before the pipeline. I think you can do a lot.
The bit that you've said, in my limited knowledge, that makes the most sense is when you were talking about technology, right? Or I'm going to get this completely wrong. We were talking about the fact of libraries, right? And developers are going and grabbing these from external sources all the time, which is no different to clicking on a phishing email. Why is that so difficult to embed that? The fact that you wouldn't do that, because it just seems crazy. And again, it might be my naiveness and newness to the industry.
Yeah, I think there's lots of reasons around that. I mean, the first thing is the organization needs to provide the developers with the alternative, which is to have an internal organization repository which gets scanned. So before a developer uses it gets scanned. There are situations I've seen where people are really so good that their developers don't even know. They get their developer profile, they get their specific developer operating system and build, and when they type npm get this library whatever, they don't even realize it's not going to the internet. It's going through this internal system and pulling it down. It's already checked. That's the utopia. But that's got to be there. I mean, if a developer if a developer's got a job to do, and his job is to use the technology out there. So if he can't find it anywhere else, and he's got no choice, he's going to go to the internet and look and find it, and that's kind of natural. Yeah, it's the way it is. I mean, when I look back to my kind of cert days when I was doing forensic responses and security responses, some of the alerts that came to me that we'd have to respond to was a developer breaking company policy because he was trying to get his job done.
Yeah. This is my
I think there's got to be some appreciation that's the way it works. People are trying to do a job, so you've got to set it up so they can do that job in the secure way.
The thing is, Lewis, you're a developer, or you've got loads of experience. Me, who isn't a developer, it just seems like magic, right? And I'm sure that that's the same for a lot of people who aren't technical in the industry. And again, it's back to that trying to educate people about the life cycle that you go through and all the challenges. And I think the more we can do that as an industry, the better. I love Christopher Keith's comment here, because I wonder whether he's talking about me and why you've recruited me, Lewis. So he says, get rid of your face there, sorry. Jose, I've learned that there's a good formula to team building. You can't have a team of all-stars. The chance of them clashing is much higher. It's better to have 1 or 2 all-stars and the rest entry to mid-level performance. Well, I don't know what to say about that, Christopher. I feel like maybe this is why Lewis has taken me on now. I want to bring the tone down a little bit of the technical team.
I think I know what it means. I agree. I don't think it's something you can put maths to. I think it comes naturally. If you know your team well enough, you know that what's missing. Do you think
your success in this and the way that you and I suppose Sam as well, your brother, who's the COO, have structured the company, do you think any of that relates back to your military experience? Because
I think some of it does. I mean, just kind of it's philosophical a little bit. I mean, the best job I ever had was in the army, and it wasn't to do with the work; it was to do with the team. It's been that. And when I came out, and when I was at university, and then on the internship and the grad program, when you do those kind of team building tasks that they talk about, and I just think this isn't team building. you don't know what team building is.
Is that when you have to stand on a table and then fall backwards with your team catching you?
That's not team building.
And you're never going to do that in the office either, are you? Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It's not real, and it's not helpful. I like a team can rely on each other. If a test is in trouble, then another test. My project manager is a busy man, but he hasn't got to worry about people shirking the work. Yeah. Because if someone's in trouble, 3 people will say, "Oh, I can help you out here," and when I'm in trouble, they're there to help me out. And the same. It's got to be fluid between the team, and the responsibilities have to be everyone's responsible and everything's fluid.
Yeah, it's also back to giving people the freedom to play to their strengths as well, isn't it? And knowing what people are good at, knowing where people's limitations are. And I think as a firm, you've got a good handle on what people are good at and what they aren't. I mean, you clearly know that I'm a bit crap technically, because we've already discussed that. But I'm working on it, everyone. It's just going to take time.
You're the one that keeps saying that. We should maybe give you a technical interview.
No, definitely not. I wouldn't have the job. I just think, I don't know, there's a danger, and we've had this conversation, for someone doing a job like a relationship management job, I suppose you'd call it, what I'm doing with you guys. And it's a difficult one, isn't it? Well,
yeah, I mean, it depends, right? I mean, it's like I said before. If you can't get on with your team, and you can't rely on your team, for me, how do I put those people into another company that needs to rely on them? We're there to help, and we're there to help make it better. It needs to be better than when we started. And to be a consultant, you've got to be in there to be like that. We've got to be there to share the responsibilities. You can't, if you only win if your client wins.
Yeah.
So, and if I just think it's philosophy. If you look at life like that in every aspect, you take responsibility for your own actions, and are always there to help those around you, then you can ask no more.
I completely agree with that. Thanks for grassing me up, Splodge, by the way. So Splodge has jumped in and mentioned me pressing buttons. I haven't done it tonight, but when I started doing these live streams, Lewis, as you saw when we jumped in the studio earlier, there's this plethora of different things you can click on. And I'm a little bit like a child in a sweet shop where at the start I'm just sort of clicking on things and bringing messages up and closing people's screens down. So yeah, thanks, Splodge. So Mace's put, I believe if the environment between team members is not toxic, instead helpful and positive, that can bring the best out of every team member. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's happiness, right? You're working because you have to work. If you're working because you enjoy your work, your life's a lot better, I find. And these are the people that you spend more time of your life with than maybe you do your family in certain circumstances.
Yeah, there's one thing you should never say, bosses, and I actually said it to your brother earlier in a message, being genuine, and that's if you don't love your job, you should be looking for another one, because you should, because you just said this, you spend so much time of your life working that if you're not doing something you enjoy, it just means you're bloody miserable all the time. So
yeah, I completely, and I think that's something that's got to be respected, within teams. Just even if you're having a bad day, what one comment can ruin someone else's day. Why bother? Why you don't need to do that.
I think the other thing is we're all very good at getting wrapped up in our own stresses, and our own pressures, which we've all got, and they seem equally bad to all of us. But what we're not very good at as a race of people, never mind an industry, is the empathy part and understanding that when sometimes people act like dicks, or they're not responding how you'd want, excuse the French there, everyone, maybe they've had something bad happen that day. You don't know. And I think one thing I've learned from having some crap things happen in my life is that you need to take a step back before you react sometimes and try and understand, the whole story behind it. Unless they do it sometimes, then it's unexcusable. But
yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of the problem with security, and that's in Apsec. I do believe that in application security, you are more engaged than other domains in the security world. You have to talk to more parts of the IT business. So you've got to be able to take that on board. You've got to understand that everyone's in the same boat as you. They're trying to do a job, and there's no to be that you're just not going to succeed if you're not working together.
No. Although on the side to my comment, I see, Roy, you said, well said, I wish I'd heard that earlier. There is an argument to that, because even though if you're doing a job that you don't like, I completely agree you need to look for something else. But equally, a job worth doing is a job worth doing well. And I love coming out with my late nan's phrases, and that's one of them. And even if you don't like the job, if you make an effort and do your very best at it, it will make you happier doing the job until you find something else.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we've got like a few minutes left, right? And if anyone's got a question they want to drop in quickly before we go, please do. Lewis, is there anything? I mean, we were kind of going for a broad overview of what Apsec is and the different challenges today. I think from the chat, we've identified a couple of areas to focus on moving forward. Is there anything you think we've missed, or anything you want to cover off quickly while we've got a couple of minutes?
I think application security is its own industry. There's so much to talk about. If anyone wants to talk about a particular item, part of that, I'm happy to do it. We're working on various things at the moment. One of the things that's in my mind a lot is talking about continuous scanning. So we're talking about shift left. We've got CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment as part of software development. And we're looking to introduce continuous scanning, so that where the code is scanned constantly every time a developer writes his code and checks it into the repository. So where it's going to go before it gets built, it's scanned instantly, right? So he knows straight away if there's a problem, and the multiple things that can come off that: training, fixing remediating the problem. Yeah, we can talk about threat modeling as well. I've got threat modeling is a bugbear for a lot of organizations. It's difficult, and I think the biggest problem with threat modeling is not threat modeling. It's the processes. If you have to threat model every single application in your enterprise, you're not going to achieve that. Okay.
So how do you do it differently?
Say again, sorry.
How do you do it differently?
Well, you need to use proper software processes and organizations and build patterns and design patterns. Okay, so you're threat modeling the core of the patterns and the technology that's going to be used and distributed around the company, rather than treating every new software project like it's the first time you've ever done it. So a full threat model needs to happen all the time. It's labor intensive. It's just not gonna happen. What's that from Johnny? That one?
Johnny, I thought you'd fallen asleep, Johnny. Oh, you're gone. Here we go. My partner has asked about the interface between security, risk, and ultimately tech ethics within which she works. Does Bramfitt work within the broader ethics ecosystem? What a great question, Johnny.
I hope so. I certainly.
You can tell that one wasn't staged, can't you?
Yeah, I mean the interface between security, safety, risk, and tech ethics. I mean, if you're talking, are you talking about security ethics there, or broader kind of employment ethics?
I mean, if we're talking tech ethics, there aren't any, are there, at the moment?
Yeah, of course there is. Of course there is. I mean, there's always things. I mean, ethically speaking, as cybersecurity company, we have a particular responsibility that I would back 100% that all my guys are 100% aware of and 100% about.
My comment was flippantly aimed at social media platforms, actually. But that's a whole can of worms that we don't want to open up on here, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by the broader ethics ecosystem. I think we're in there. With security, we're ethical. With hiring, I believe we're ethical. I don't really. Yeah, I mean, I don't really look at anyone until I've met them, and we don't have any kind of judgments on are you good at your job technically, and do you fit in with the team? Then there's no objection.
You don't care that I wear dresses at the weekend. I mean, we've already cleared that up, haven't we? So.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, is your partner after a job? Yeah.
I see Jose's put requirements engineering is also helpful. Again, my lack of technical knowledge, I need you to jump in on that one, Lewis, to explain.
Yeah, I mean, we can do a session on that. I think it's another bugbear of mine. I think there's a few CISOs out there that have heard me, kind of moan enough about the requirements or lack of requirements. I think it's a skill that's being lost, and there's various reasons why that's being lost. That business analyst role is disappearing as development's becoming more agile and working faster, and I think it's losing a lot. I think it's having an impact on the quality of software that's being delivered.
I mean, is that a discussion in itself? Because the CISO role as well, which I suppose, whilst fairly new, is also, I think, rapidly evolving, or perhaps, should I rephrase that, perhaps needs to rapidly evolve in some cases, especially with regards to where the reporting lays and how much the board engage with that. I think it's the Securities Exchange and Commission in the States have just passed some legislation, or are about to, where if you're in that type of industry, you have to have a CISO on the board. And I wonder whether we'll see changes like that moving forward. How the reporting goes, CSO, CTO, where does it go?
Yeah, I certainly think. I mean, that's definitely a discussion that I'm happy to have, and I'm sure we can invite some CISOs along to that to hear their views. And regarding the Apsec stuff, yeah, I mean, we can do a little bit of a series if you want. We can go through right from the start, from the standards and policies and the requirements that should come from those, and how they're delivered. You know, right through the tooling, and you know, eventually get to the pen testing, which is almost in Apsec a little bit boring now, because you know everyone's had a pen test and everyone knows what that is. So you know, we can work.
There's someone today who thought a vulnerability scan was a pen test, so I know that isn't true for a start. Johnny either got a second job, or his wife or his partner has just typed that one in. I'm not sure whether you've got something to tell Lewis there, Johnny, or.
How far does Bramford as a security company work, collaborate with other actors across matters relating to technology ethics?
You know what? It's funny. It's a great question for me, and I wish Sonny, if you're watching, Sonny's my 17 years old today son, and he's doing technology levels at school, and we've had huge debates around the whole AI and ethics, of which he clearly at 17 knows more than I do. So perhaps I'll bring him on for that one next time.
Yeah, I mean, the AI ethics is it's definitely a hole from what I've seen, and you know, seen in the news, with the, you know, some of the built-in biases in some of those technologies, which I've got to be honest, I don't think were ever intentional, but they are, and they need addressing. You know, with those security work, do we collaborate with other actors regarding technology ethics? It's never come up. I'll be honest. It's in our consulting. It's never come up. But I don't think we've really engaged with any customers that are doing any AI in that respect. So I guess we've not had the opportunity to collaborate on that. Would be the answer.
That's but if you challenge a new head of business innovation, Lewis, is it?
Yeah, definitely up for that. And Johnny's wife, if she wants to have some conversations on that with your university research, more than happy to engage on that.
I'd like to be involved in that as well, just so I sound like I know what I'm talking about when my 17-year-old asks me a question, because I'm sick of sounding stupid at the moment. I suppose you just get used to that being a parent, don't you? So look, we've run over time. The engagement has been fantastic. Thanks ever so much to everyone who's watched live. For those of you that are watching recorded, we are looking for people to come on in the future and chat with us, and also to collaborate and kind of bring together the security and the developer side of the community together to hopefully improve the way the industry is moving forward. So if you are interested in joining in, please do reach out. Thank you, Splodge, for your comments. Much appreciated. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Lewis, any final last words before we go? Put my teeth back in.
Any final last words? No, I'll be here next time. It's fine. There's no last words. There will be further words.
You'll definitely be back, and I've still got a job. We're all right, yeah?
Yeah, we're all right, mate. We're all right.
Excellent. Well, look, everyone, thank you so much. I'm going to play us out with a quick please like and subscribe. Obviously, if you have enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe to the channel. These events will be broadcast across Bramfitt's channel and InfoSec for the next one. Just need to get a couple of technical things set up. So please, if you can, like and subscribe to Bramfitt's YouTube channel as well, because it's part of my job to make that more successful than it is. So please like and subscribe. I've dropped Lewis's LinkedIn in the chat for anyone who wants to connect with him. Sorry, Lewis, if you didn't want them, but it's in there now. Thank you so much. I shall play us out with a little video. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.